Hi, welcome to the first show of Cooking with the Crandalls. My name is Art Crandall.
I'm Art Crandall too.
That's right. And we figured there's a big audience out there, a big opportunity to have normal cooking. I mean, let's face it, coq au vin and things like that are very nice and very elegant, but most people just eat regular meals. And so with that, we figured that we would come in, and my son goes to Johnson & Wales right now for culinary arts.
I'm currently a freshman, and hopefully through the show we'll teach you how to start with something easy like chocolate chip cookies and pasta, and hopefully make our way up to pâté à choux. And you might know them as eclairs.
That's right. So these French people, they have words for everything. So let's get started right away. What we're going to do is we're going to make some meatballs. Today's show is going to be 2 or 3 things. We're going to make meatballs. We're going to make sauce. We're going to make olio and olla. It's a oily spaghetti, one dish, and a regular spaghetti and meatballs for the other, with a dessert.
Of course, we're going to finish up with the chocolate chip cookies.
That's right. So let's get going. First thing is about 1 pound of hamburger. We take 1 pound of hamburger here. And what I like to do now is to take about a good little bit of oregano. Now, oregano we don't want too much because it's a real heavy, thick spice. But parsley is a good spice. Throw some parsley in there. And then this is the basil. And basil is a good thing to have too. Could you pass me an egg?
Yeah, no problem.
Good thing about eggs, huh? Look at that.
Oh, terrible.
Yeah.
Now,
how can you tell?
This is a part of the show I'd like to call Knowing Your Product. At the top of the egg, you can do the light test. Now, at the top of the egg, there is an air sac. And if there's too much air in there, you know the more air in the air sac, the older the egg is.
Interesting. Interesting. It's a good thing we know somebody right across the street or right down the market with fresh eggs. So we're going to put some egg in there. And what we're going to do now is to put some little garlic salt. Throw a little garlic salt in there. A little more. And some Parmesan cheese. Okay. And while I am mixing this up, could you cut some cloves of garlic for us?
No problem. You want to start out with about 3 to 4 cloves of garlic in the pan. This is to give it that flavor, but we're going to do something different. We're going to keep it in there to keep the flavor, everything.
That's right. We're going to start, when we start, we're going to use some olive oil, and we're going to, this one, there's variations to how you can cook your sauce, and we are going to use a meatball-based sauce. Some people use sausage and start it out with sausage or crumble up some meat. We're going to have basically a nice this hamburger right here, it has one thing missing now. Most people say breadcrumbs, but we're not going to use breadcrumbs. Could you do me a favor and start handing over the Ritz Crackers? We're going to use Ritz Crackers in here. My mother always used to use Ritz Crackers instead of breadcrumbs. They're a little tastier, they're a little fuller and richer. And one of the interesting things about Ritz Crackers was that they actually asked the Ritz Hotel chain that they were making a good solid cracker, and they wanted to be associated with a regal-sounding cracker. So they asked the Ritz Hotel if they could name it Ritz, and they said sure. And thus we have the Ritz Crackers that we know today.
What we're going to do with that is we're going to pour it right into the meat. It's going to give it a good crummy texture, and will actually help the meat stick together and cook even better.
I'm going to be mixing this now. And this is the very first step of putting a nice meatball together. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some oil in the pan while we start continuing to mix our meatballs. What we want to do is to just put enough oil in the pan to cover the bottom of the pan. And we'll let that heat up a little bit like that.
While he's doing that, I'll teach you a little bit about garlic. Actually, the more you chop it up, the more the flavor will seep into the product. Because as it is cooked, of course, it will seep into it, and the more finely chopped it is, the more juices will flow into it.
So that's cool. So what we're going to do is, there's all different kinds of sizes of meatballs. You can make really small meatballs. One person I know made a meatball about this big, but we like them about that size, perhaps?
Yeah, about that size.
And then what you do is you just put them in the pan, and you make them round enough so you constantly have to address them or else they'll burn. So while we're doing this, could you do me a favor and tell them a little bit the difference between the olive oils? Because that's a virgin olive oil.
Yeah, this is a virgin olive oil, and there's actually many different kinds, but do you actually know what the difference is, Dad?
I think what I've been told before is that a virgin olive oil is an extra virgin olive oil was like from a first pressing, and that's why it's, you know, virgin, the first press.
Well, what they do now with technology, how it is they take it and they have a big machine.
Yeah.
What they do is crush it up, and as the liquid spews out, it's determined by the pH level.
Oh, the acidity and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
So like low acid or something?
Yes.
Extra virgin olive oil?
Exactly.
Huh?
Low acid and higher acid is regular olive oil.
That's pretty interesting. Okay. So if you could keep cutting up a few more cloves of garlic. What we're going to do is we're going to start preparing for our sauce pretty soon. What we're going to do for our sauce is to put in 2 large cans of crushed tomatoes. Now you can use different kinds of cans: whole tomatoes, tomato sauce. I like the Italian plum tomatoes, and those are pretty good. You know what? Could you do me a favor and pass me some of the raisins?
No problem.
One of the things my grandfather, nice grandfather Olio, used to do that a lot of my sisters didn't like, but I liked it, was to add raisins to the meatballs. It's a little different, gives it a little different taste, but it's actually not bad at all. I kind of like it. It's a little sweet taste to the meatballs, and a little trick of the trade, just little raisins in there. And the best way to actually make the raisins, you buy them, but if you put them in water into a microwave and put it on for a couple of minutes, it actually rehydrates the raisins so they're nice and soft in your meatballs. Okay. Now, as you can tell, what you have here is you start to see some of it turning, almost sticking to the pan. And that's actually kind of a good thing, because those are called like yummies or something, or grenines or something like that. And we actually want that to be a basis of our stock, of our sauce, or some people call it gravy. Okay? So I'll tell you what, while this is going on, do you want to start preparing for the dessert? We can start
no problem.
Things going on at the same time.
Chocolate chip cookies are actually an easy way to, first off, impress someone on your baking, and second off, to impress someone with taste. Because the chocolate really seeps into it. It has a rich flavor. But you want to be careful, because the chocolate chip cookies have butter in them, and actually, butter has the worst cooking properties of any fat. It is the worst, and lard actually is the best. So, it's a pretty interesting fact.
You know, why does everybody like butter? I mean, why is it like cooking versus baking? Is there a difference or something?
There actually is a big difference in cooking and baking. You might have heard the term recipe. That's a cooking term for the culinary arts. But the proper term for baking is formula, because the formulas are based on math and chemistry. There's a chemistry, it's chemical transformation. And what it is the formula part of it. You have to be precise in your measurements, or else you're going to run into trouble down the line. Now what I'm just going to do is I'm going to combine all of these ingredients right now. And what we're going to do is throw them in a mixing bowl and put them on a slower speed, speed 2 actually. And while I'm doing that, hopefully you can see what my dad is doing with the ingredients over there.
These meatballs are coming along really fine. As you can see, they're browning. You got to keep it circular, keep spinning them around. This is the one thing that I really like about my mother used to make a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen meatballs at one time, and then freeze them and put them away. So if I wanted to come home and make a meatball sub after school, I could take it out. And it was easier for her because once we make the sauce, we're going to make enough sauce to freeze that also. So it makes it for another meal. It makes it real easy. You just come out, you take the number of meatballs that you want, and then you also take the number or the amount of sauce that you want. To frost it makes it for a real quick dinner because all you have to do now is cook the pasta.
Okay, so anyway, what we just did was we put the sugar, the brown sugar, the salt, the butter, and the shortening into the mixing bowl until it got smooth. What I am now going to do is just put a pinch of vanilla extract into the 2 eggs we have prepared. That should be good enough. That's going to give it that vanilla flavoring. And when this is done, I'm going to put it in there, mix it till it's smooth again, and then we will add the flour for texture. And then following the flour will be the chocolate chips. And you'll see the finished batter.
Cool.
Go ahead, take it away, Dad.
All right. What we're doing is I started using a nice spoon here. The olive oil is actually cooking up very well. We got it at a medium high temperature. And I'm constantly moving my meatballs. At this point, we're looking real good for how the meatballs are. If you wanted to have sausage, you could either put sausage in here. Some people have even cooked the sausage separately to drain a lot of the fat. This meat is a very lean hamburger, so I'm cooking it in the oil, and it almost becomes stock, part of the stock for the basis of the spaghetti sauce. So that's really good. And it's looking really good. So what we're pretty much going to do now is we're going to take this out and put it into a bowl, take these out, put it into a bowl, and start putting in the tomato paste and start making it the basis of a good sauce. Like I started saying, somebody uses sausage. Some people at this point might throw in some ground hamburger. Some people even make their hamburgers with part meat, with part beef, part pork. Those are good too. This one we just decided to go with the straight beef. And as you can tell, it's really browning up very nice here. And one of the things that I do is turn around and maybe I'll just put this right here and just always make an extra one to see how it's going. This one isn't quite done, so we'll throw it back in. You got to have one for taste, you know. You got to try to taste it, see how it's going. So at this point, it's just about done. About 2 or 3 more minutes. Just about done here. I'm going to look at this. I'm going to say, looking good. Oh, it looks really good. So what we're going to do right now is going to take the meatballs right out of here. And don't forget to leave those drippings and everything in there, because that's going to be the basis of our sauce, or our gravy, as some people call it. You know, the interesting thing about the olive oil is some people use it in the Mediterranean countries That's why the Spanish, who incidentally produced the most olive oil of anyone, and then the Italians are second, they actually, throw that in, start browning it. They actually use it for, mix it with avocado and use it as a facial. So it's really good. What we have here is tomato paste. I'm going to use some tomato paste. I'm going to put that in once the garlic is a little bit browned. Okay. So basically these meatballs came out with a pound of hamburger, about a tablespoon of the oregano, about a tablespoon and a half of the parsley, and about a tablespoon of the basil, and what's that? Oh, maybe a couple teaspoons of salt, garlic salt. So at this point, the garlic is cooking up really nice. Okay. You can see how it's going in there. What we want is not to burn the garlic, but to make it golden. And you can tell from there that it's looking like it's getting there. It's almost there. So at this point, what we want to do is I'll throw in the tomato paste, 1 can of tomato paste. Throw that in. And actually, what else I like to put in, I don't want to say it's cheating at all, but what it does is give you that little watery, it's tomato sauce, little can of tomato sauce. And that actually helps make the stock right here nice gravy. So we're going to let this go for a little bit. And actually what we want to do is brown it. Not brown, but just make it a little darker, which means it's cooking. And we want to give it that nice burgundy type of color. Okay? Which is really nice. Now, what I've got going here also is I've got some water boiling for the spaghetti. Now, some people like spaghetti. There's all different kinds of spaghetti. There's spaghetti that's regular spaghetti. There's thin spaghetti. There's vermicelli. And there's angel hair pasta. And you can do whatever you want. You can have whichever you want. I kind of like it a little thinner, either fine spaghetti or angel hair. And a lot of people in my family like it with fatter, a vermicelli, or actually a spaghetti. So that looks pretty good. So what we're going to do now is we're going to empty 2 cans. I use the crushed tomatoes. We'll put that in. And then actually I have a couple secret ingredients now. One of the reasons why I like to put in the basil, about another teaspoon and a half of parsley, about a teaspoon of basil, about a teaspoon, maybe just a little less of oregano, some more salt, garlic salt.
How's it looking?
Hey, I think it's doing all right.
All right. We actually just put the cookies into the oven. As you can see, the batter should have pretty good consistency. A lot of chocolate chips in there if you like them. Mm-hmm. And you can do many things at this point. You can add even white chocolate chips, you know, if you want chocolate chunks. I know you've heard of a chocolate chunk cookie.
Oh, yeah.
But
I have. This is going to cook for a while. Now, what we've done is we've actually... Would you mind getting that other pan over there?
No problem.
What we've done is we'll let this cook, but we'll put some sugar in. We'll put about a tablespoon or so of sugar. Real exact science here. So we're going to throw a tablespoon of sugar in. And what that does now is to take a little bit of the bitterness away of the tomato. And also, my secret ingredient is a little red wine. I use about 1/4 cup. It's got to be a nice, sweet red wine. And so we'll just put that in there.
There you go, dude.
And actually, my last secret ingredient is in the blender. And the blender, It was right there?
Oh, I moved it on you.
Oh, it's right over there.
It's right over there.
Wait a minute.
Whatever, you got to talk to me.
That'll be edited out, right? So, what I've done is actually I've taken half an onion. I've taken an onion, but halved it, and then put it in the blender. And sometimes you need to add a little bit of water, but you know that's going to come out. And so I've chopped up an onion. Some people chop it and then chop it fine and put it in. But what I like to do is I like to put it in the blender, so it's kind of got that puree consistency, and throw it in there. So nobody knows that there's onion in there because they can't see it, but it's in there for flavor. So
there's many different things if you want. You can finely chop it, or you could keep it in chunks. Personally, I like, more of an onion ring shape. If you take it, cut it in half, and then fold each individual piece out, you'll have more ring-like textures.
Could you do me a favor and cut up 1 or 2 more cloves of garlic?
Yep.
And what we're going to do at this point now is we're going to switch pans, and I'm going to show you the spaghetti sauce that is just finishing up before the shooting. See the nice color? What I also didn't tell you, which I suppose I should, is that I put in a couple of bay leaves. Not everybody does it, but I do it. Put it in, it gives it a little bit of flavor. And then you can salt and pepper to taste. So what we're going to do now is, to feed the crew here, we're going to make some olio and olla that my grandfather taught me how to make, through my mother actually, but my grandfather, when he was going through the Depression, I asked him, I said, hey, have you ever had these dried tomatoes and stuff, sun-dried tomatoes? And he said, oh, not for about 60 years, because that's what he used to do, when they were younger, they had a garden, always had a garden, and they had to can it and do it for the winter. So that's how they did it. What I'd like to do also now is to put, put some more olive oil in here, and we're going to make little olio and olla. And what that is oily spaghetti, is basically what it is. And you can make this real simple. You can make it any way you want. But what I started to say was, my grandfather said, the oily spaghetti is really simple. You put in oil, and then you put in whatever you want. Some people use pine nuts. Some people use, pine nuts are also known as pignolis in Italian. So we'll come in and we'll brown this. We'll also put in some of that raisins, the plump raisins. So once this starts cooking and browning, we'll throw in some raisins. You can throw in some walnuts. You can throw in anything you want. He used to actually, because they were pretty poor growing up through the Depression, his mother used to put in eggs and some broccoli. So you look at the olio and olla, and it's oily spaghetti, but you can put as much as you want. It's really kind of a cool, neat thing to do. So we'll do that. Basically, we got the water on the stove. And I'm sorry, you want to show them the difference? We got the thin spaghetti and the regular spaghetti. So what we're going to do is just boil it, put it in the water, and start it. Now, what's the key to a good spaghetti?
Key to the good spaghetti is definitely cooking it to the right amount. You got to make sure it's al dente.
Al dente.
Al dente.
Done just right?
The Italians say.
Yeah.
But you really can screw with spaghetti if you want to.
When I was in college, we used to take the spaghetti, and when it was cooking, how did you know it was done? You take it out and flip it against the wall, and if it stuck, it was right and done. All right, what we've done is taken the liberties of finishing off our pasta, and some people actually mix some sauce in right now, but what I'm going to do is I am going to put it some in like that. If you can. Get that knife?
Somewhere around here.
Okay.
I think it just moved on us, actually.
Yeah,
it's
live
migrating.
TV, huh?
It's live.
All right, what I'm going to do is usually got something like this. Put this over in the small pan, I'm sorry. At home, you'd have more things at your disposal. But here's the Olio and Olio. Throw that in like that. And that works really nice. All the nice oil, let that in there. That's good. So that's one dish. And you could...
Yeah, I'll just sprinkle a little bit of Parmesan on it.
Now there's two cheeses that are really good as a mix. One is Parmesan and one is Romano. Romano has a little stronger flavor and gives it that boom. And Parmesan, of course, is a good cheese.
Of course.
So I'm going to throw this in here. Okay. And throw a few meatballs. Pardon my fingers, but...
They're clean, right?
Yeah, they actually are. Speaking of clean, did you know that why doctors do 90 seconds of washing their hands before surgery? That's because it takes 90 seconds to actually make your hands appropriately sterile for surgery.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to leave it like that. I'm going to throw it over to you. Throw some more in like that. Okay, we get extra. This is where you could turn around, make your extra meatballs, and just put them in the refrigerator. They're great for after-school snacks. Looks good.
That should be good.
Okay, so we got this, we got that. And did you know that Italians usually eat their salad after dinner? That's how I was raised. I always ate a salad after dinner. How's the cookies doing?
Actually, the cookies are just about done. Let's have a look. As you can see, you want them... I like mine a little more browner than most. So I left them in the oven a little bit. But most people, you know, once it starts turning that golden brown color.
They like it?
Yeah, they like to take it out of the oven. As you can see, we have the cookies prepared. The two entrees prepared.
I think that should do it, huh?
That should do it.
Good job today.
Yeah.
I hope it was fun for you. It was fun for me. And I hope you guys really enjoyed our episode today.